Hello and welcome to Girls with Goals. I'm Niamh Maher, and this week we're all feeling a little bit amorous. It is Valentine's week and we are celebrating in kind of a different way this year. I wanted to explore more of the realms of our sexual identities. So I thought, who were the women to get on to talk about this? And I decided to bring on the hosts of a brand new sex podcast called Pure Filth, and they are Michelle McCormick and Tyrell. So you're very welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for coming in. Sarah, you've been on twice before, so you have reached the club that only a few select people are in of the 3 times on Girls with Goals.
Oh, who else is in it?
Paul Ryder is on it.
Okay.
Rosemary McCabe.
Okay.
And I actually think that's it. So,
Wow.
so you're up there now.
Fancy.
Yeah. So welcome back.
Like an
it's been a
MVP.
minute. Yeah, Michelle, first time. You're very welcome.
Thank you so much.
So we're going to start the same way we start every show. It's with our game. It's called 6 Words or Less, except this time I wanted to do it a little bit differently. So I want you guys to describe how you feel about Valentine's Day in 6 words or less. So shall we go to Michelle first?
Sure. I think like overhyped, often disappointing. Nice idea, but.
Okay. Ending with a but. I love that. Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. Sarah?
Mine is hyper aware of other people's sex.
That was good.
Yeah.
Good. Well done.
I've done this 3 times.
Hyper aware of other people's sex, as in the amount of sex other people are getting, or hyper aware of their sexual activity around Valentine's Day?
Both. But I only had 6 words, so.
Yeah, you did only have
Yeah.
6 words. That's true.
That's a key
it's
point.
Tough game. This is why we play this
very
game.
tough
So tell me about the podcast. So it's in its infancy. It's only 4 episodes in. I've been listening. I'm a fan. So it's called Pure Filth. And I suppose, firstly, I want to hear about your relationship. So how did the two of you become friends and meet each other in the first place?
On Instagram.
Oh, okay.
Where else?
Yeah.
It's the only way you can meet people these days. I started following Sarah, and I was really surprised when I followed her. I was like, how was I not following this girl before? Because we have a lot of really overlapping interests in as far as like body positivity, fat positivity, fat fashion, that kind of thing. And was following her, and I think we had messaged maybe once or twice about a couple of other things. But then I said something on my Instagram, I think, about kink or fetish
White
or
picked
something.
it up, and Sophie texted me and she was like, Shelley Mack is talking about the kink scene. Have you met her? And I was like, what?
And you realised that I was following you, and then Sarah messaged me and she was like, oh my God, I'm
Let's
kinky,
be
I'm
best
kinky
friends.
too.
So it kind of started around sex, essentially, then.
Yeah, absolutely. It actually did, yeah. Because I think we probably would have ended up bumping into each other eventually.
Yeah.
But when we realised that we had like really 2 things in common, that, you know, we became quite close.
It was the start of a beautiful
It was.
romance.
And it's not that long ago.
It's
not
less
even
than
a year.
Wow, okay.
And we've been on holidays together. It's been lovely.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And so, okay, so you connected over Instagram and then you met up. And then there was something that kind of happened on your Instagram, Sarah, because obviously you've been on the show a couple of times before, and mostly speaking about body positivity. And we've been speaking for a while now, over a year, I think, since I met you.
It was the first episode of January last year.
Yeah, so it was a good while.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, one night, I was just sitting in my room watching Sarah Tyrell's story, as always. And then she started talking about swinging, and I was completely blown away. I had no idea that you were into this. I didn't even really know what it was, right?
Yeah.
So this kind of happened, and this was before the Pure Filth podcast, obviously. But so you guys connected, and obviously you had this thing in common. So tell me a little bit then about the idea for the podcast before we get into the kink and the swinging elements.
I think we just, like, when we meet up, we just have so many conversations about sex all the time. And it's not necessarily just like your typical, like, what did he do to you next? It's more along the lines of like...
typical, what did he do to you next?
Well, there's a lot of that.
conversations,
There's a fair amount of that,
Yeah.
But our conversations tend to be a lot more about like feminism and sex and body positivity and sex and slut shaming in Ireland and all that kind of stuff. And we kept having these moments where we were like, God, like we should be doing a live on
Yeah.
Instagram, or because we both get a lot of questions from our followers about this kind of thing, and we were just like, maybe we should do something. What would that be?
It was definitely, I feel like it was Sarah's idea. I think you were like, let's do a podcast about this. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. But of course we faffed about with it for a while and did nothing. But then it eventually all came together and we're so thrilled.
And so tell us then about what kink is. Because Michelle, like I follow you on Instagram now and I've been listening to the episodes and you seem to have been involved with this community in Ireland for quite a few years.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that there was a community. Like this, I'm going to sound a little bit like an absolute, just a newbie in this
No, but
episode.
most people don't have it. 'Cause this is the
Exactly.
thing.
So I'm
Like,
going to ask a lot of questions about things that I've no idea, and so apologies if I sound completely naive. But I didn't even know. I first off didn't even know that there was a kink community. So tell us about what exactly it is.
That's where I started as well.
Okay.
So I, like, growing up, I was always, you know, like in college and things, like the slutty one of my friends. And that was completely just like my place. And I think every friend group has a Samantha. So I was the Samantha.
When you say like a slutty one, as in like you enjoyed sex and you had sex with a lot of people.
Boy crazy.
Okay.
You know, your friends would be laughing at you like, oh, she went home with such a fella last night and, you know, whatever. All in good fun and never in a harsh, judgy way. But, and I have always loved blogs, and I used to read a lot of like sex and sexuality blogs because it's a massive area of interest for me. I'm just really interested in
You're a big
sexuality.
sex nerd.
Yeah, I'm a big sex nerd. I love knowing about all the different types of things that people are into. And so as my own sexuality developed, I realized that I was interested in kink myself, and eventually came upon a website called FetLife. And when I joined FetLife, I discovered, oh, this happens in Ireland.
Okay.
And I didn't even know. I had the exact same reaction as you. I was like, oh, we have this here. It's not just in America and in films. It actually happens here.
Right, because a lot of it comes from maybe movies, and a lot of it comes from the kind of Hollywood ideal of what fetishes are.
Yeah, and when people think of fetish, like, let's pick some movies. Obviously, 50 Shades of Grey. You think about the gimp scene from Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
You think
Ball
about
gag situations.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and it's all that. But kink is what people with fetishes would use to describe themselves. They would say, I'm kinky, and it's generally a part of like your sexual identity.
Okay, and so there's a vast array
so huge.
many
kinks.
Yeah.
So
vast
can you
array.
give us some examples of what kinks are?
What I always like to say, first of all, is because sometimes people separate them, swinging is a fetish.
Okay.
Swinging is a kink.
Okay.
To share partners like that, that's a kink. Classic BDSM, like you would see in 50 Shades of Grey, that's a fetish. There are people, let's say there's men out there who enjoy dressing up in lingerie or cross-dressing. That's a fetish. Foot fetish is one of the most common fetishes in the world. It seems to be predominantly men. You never really hear of women having a foot fetish, but in the gay community, foot fetish is huge, and for heterosexual men as well, it's huge there. But then you can go right into the weird stuff, like one of the butt of the internet's jokes, furries, who are people who like dress up in animal costumes and have sex in them.
I think I've read a few articles.
Or, you know, things like splashing, where people like to like literally splosh about and like paint and stuff, and they find that arousing.
What?
Yeah, paint, custard, jelly.
With people, or they're just
with
doing
other
it?
people. Well, no, because I've seen snippets of videos where it's just sexy ladies just sort of frolicking around in it, or even just one woman.
Wow, I've never splashing.
Splashing.
Tell her about snedging.
Snedging.
Snedging is my personal favourite.
Snedging is my favourite obscure fetish.
It's not my kink.
See, the
like
thing
to
is,
get that
I don't
across.
want to come across as if I'm kink shaming as well. I've just never
you
heard
can
of
laugh.
that.
Like, this is the thing that we've talked about this in the podcast. Is like there's a difference between shaming and laughing.
Okay.
Like some of it is just funny. You
Okay.
cannot not laugh at people in custard. Like that's
Yeah, you
so
can't
funny.
not laugh at it.
But you don't have like we're not judging them.
No,
There's
of
nothing
course.
wrong with what they're doing.
Okay.
And if they're getting off on it, then they should.
Yeah, and they're not
absolutely
hurting
do it.
anybody.
So what's snedging?
Snedging is sniffing bicycle seats. Yeah.
I just think, how much more imaginative can you get? Like,
Exactly.
that's awesome.
Sniffing a bicycle seat after somebody's been
Being
on it.
yeah, like a nice warm bicycle seat, giving it a smell.
Okay, well, yeah, I would
Give it
follow.
a nice whiff.
It's strange, but then when you think about people who like to sniff women's underwear or use nylons or shoes, that's
So
a
it's
massive
like a
market
sensation
online.
and a texture and all that kind of
it's
the
stuff.
whole
very
thing.
primal.
And we always say, you know, it's okay to laugh about these things because they are funny. Like there's something inherently funny about, you know, rolling around in custard. And even when you're in the middle of a really intense BDSM scene, sometimes you can just crack up laughing thinking, this is ridiculous.
Like you just can't take it too seriously.
Yeah,
you can't
okay.
take
You know
it
what I
too
mean?
seriously.
There's no
and
point.
it's okay to laugh. Like it's not all, you don't have to have a stick up your bum about it unless you're into that. And, you know, you can laugh about it as long as you're not judging anybody for doing it, because
Ridiculing the actual person.
as we say, like as long as everybody is consenting and you're enjoying yourself and you're not hurting anybody, have at it. Do what you want to do.
away.
You guys so you obviously found this community and became a part of this community. So what kind of, are there events? Are there clubs?
Absolutely.
Are there, like,
So
what's the community like?
I've been involved less so in the past few years, but for about 7 years now. And there's a whole range of events from very vanilla things, and we would say vanilla to mean the kink
Non-kinky.
the kink equivalent of a muggle is the vanilla.
okay.
So to meetups just in pubs, and in the BDSM world, they're called munches. The term originated in America, where there would always be food involved. Obviously, in Ireland, there is no food involved, and it's pints. So there would be like different. So you register to go along. Usually, the location is private to keep it like private, and people just sit around and talk. And I think in the old days, it used to be a little bit more strange. But nowadays, if you walk into any bar of a Wednesday night, there are probably 3 to 4 groups of people who have met online who are meeting up in the pub for a drink. So
nobody knows. Yeah,
and nobody
you're right.
knows. So that the munch is sort of the mainstay of the kink scene, where people just go, they're in their regular clothes, and you just get to chat and meet with like-minded people. It's not about sex.
Okay.
Absolutely,
No,
people
people don't like typically hook up with them.
you know, you're not going to like pick someone up and then take them home and ride them. That's not the point. It's just to like meet friends and build community.
Yeah.
And then of course there are more kink centered or sex centered events. From there's a fetish nightclub that's been running in Dublin, I'd say probably almost 20 years now. It's called Niamh Maher. I'm not giving away anything by saying
there's
that.
a
It's a public
website.
event. It used to be on in Fibber McGee's.
Oh, no way.
It's been running for years.
Yeah.
And
So people can just go.
people can just go. You just pay your €20 on the door and you go. They have very strict dress code requirements. It's very strict. You can't just wander in off the street as a tourist.
You can't have sex in if sure you can't.
No, you can't have sex there, and there's no sexual play allowed. But you can do things like spanking scenes or rope scenes, flogging. You can put, your latex on and walk around. There's people who are really into like pony play, who have these amazing elaborate suits with the fantastic like manes and hoof heels, and they go, or and then couples go to kind of experience what it's like, and it's just a nightclub, but with lots of Irish people basically in their underwear, and you might get to see a few fun like spanking scenes or tying scenes, or something a bit more fun or something a bit more intense. And then you go right the way down this, like to the more extremes, which are the private kind of invite-only play parties where sex is allowed, and it's more of a mix. So you have the same kind of like spanking or tying up, but people are allowed to have sex, and there's rooms and things.
These are like sex clubs then?
Essentially, yeah.
Right,
yeah.
okay. And so this was kind of, I think, what you were talking about a little bit on your Instagram, like you started explaining what this was, and I know you got a rake of questions about it then. But how did you get involved in this scene then?
Completely by accident.
Really?
It
wasn't like...
I'm the opposite of Michelle in that way. I am not at all a sex nerd. I am really very focused on what I'm into, and I don't care that much about everything else. I didn't, like, up until 2 years ago, I don't think I'd even seen 50 Shades, like, was just not into it.
Well, they're not good movies, so...
and
terrible books.
I happened to meet a guy through Plenty Fish.
Okay.
And he was a dom. And he knew straight away that I was kinky, but I didn't realise it.
Oh, did he tell you he was a dom straight away?
No, he's a very clever man. Oh. Yeah, I think this is his thing. He finds these muggle women and, you know, turns them.
That's my thing.
That's
With
your
dudes,
thing with
yeah.
men, yeah. So, yeah, that was what
That's
happened.
a kink, is it?
Not really. No, it just
okay.
keeps happening over and over again.
She's run out of all the kinky lads.
Keep getting in, and I, you know, keep falling for these guys who aren't kinky, and then I'm like, okay, so now we need to do some learning.
Yeah, bend over, please.
So you just met a guy.
I just met a guy, yeah, and started having casual sex with him, and it got kinkier and kinkier, and I was like really into it, but didn't know what it was.
Okay.
And then when he had mentioned FetLife, that website, to me, and when that ended after a couple of months, I was like, okay, I cannot go back to just regular sex. I definitely can't. So I went on to FetLife, and then the rest is kind of history.
When you say regular sex, though, it makes me feel like I'm missing out. Like, what do you consider to be regular sex then?
You see, this is where I find it a little bit tricky, because like I definitely don't ever want to like vanilla shame anybody.
Are people who aren't involved in this community all just having vanilla sex and we just don't even realize
But
it?
I still have vanilla sex sometimes. Like, I was in a relationship last year,
Yeah.
and we would sometimes have vanilla sex.
Okay.
And it was amazing because the
Yeah.
chemistry was so great. Like,
I don't think it's the case at all that if you're not involved in a community that you're not possibly kinky
No,
or possibly
definitely not.
No way. You don't have to be going to parties to be doing, you
Yeah.
know, slightly taboo things in the bedroom. And I think the vast majority of people who are kinky and do kinky things do so in the privacy of their homes
Yeah.
with their partners, and they probably don't even put a name on it or
Yeah.
even really think about it that much.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably getting more and more common because as porn gets more and more extreme, that kind of behavior becomes more mainstream. And when I say like extreme, the type of porn that is mainstream now, you would have used to have to go to the like extreme section to see it, and now that's what's the
Completely
norm.
normal,
And
yeah.
people are opening their minds
and
to
it's sort of like a
different
vicious cycle, and that
Yeah.
changes what people's expectations are.
So you said there, Sarah, that you were in a relationship and things kind of changed a little bit. So are the majority of people in this community in relationships, or are they single, or is it a mishmash of both? And also, like, what's your preference then? Is it weird for you? Like, right, I'm just going to say it. I would fear jealousy, to be honest with you. I would fear
oh,
that,
now you're talking about swinging.
well, now I'm talking about
Okay,
swinging,
yeah.
yeah. So, like, I mean, I know that swinging historically, I suppose, is considered keys in a bowl, and you're changing.
I'm
with
still waiting for that keys in the bowl party. I was
there are
promised
couples.
keys
Yeah, I
in the
want
bowl, and
to
haven't
steal
come
some
across it.
cars,
That's
to
what
be
it is.
honest.
Yeah.
I'm going
Don't
to pick
have
up a
a
new
car right
car.
now.
Yeah.
So, like, what's the difference when it comes to like being single in these kind of communities and then being in a relationship?
I don't know. I see. The tricky thing is, I've only been in this community for a year.
Yeah.
So I'm very new to it, and I've only had like one significant relationship in my life, and I don't know. I feel like it's a mix of singles and couples. Now, if you're talking about the greater kink scene, I know less about that. When it comes to swinging, it's definitely more couples.
Okay.
100%, it's definitely more couples.
And you're not in a relationship though.
No,
but
and
you're
when
very
I-
much in the swinging scene.
I'm very much in the swinging
Okay.
scene, but when I was in a relationship, I 100% stood back from it. Because I was like, absolutely, I was like, no, mine.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be that way. And I would definitely like to think that in future relationships and whatever is the big relationship in my life, that I will be able to swing in some way.
Yeah.
Because the idea of really traditional monogamy just, it makes my teeth hurt. I can't.
So, do you find that that's kind of one of the things that comes up in conversations around these things? Maybe at the meetups when you're not having sex, just at the munchies. Is that
Sarah
what they're
doesn't go
called?
to
I'm
those
so
meetups.
crap
No,
with
I don't go to events where I'm not allowed to have sex.
Oh, really?
I could just go for a Sunday dinner with my family.
Sarah's like, I could be having a bath or doing my nails or something instead.
to speak to you people.
But is it about pushing the boundaries of kind of that traditional sense of love and monogamy, essentially?
I think so, yeah. I know a lot of couples who swing and couples who've been together, some for 10, some for 40 years.
And it doesn't mean that you're not in a committed relationship.
It's just a different kind of relationship. That's all it is. And I actually think that their relationships are so much stronger for it.
Yeah.
Like they share this incredible thing that they don't share with anybody else, and it brings them so much closer to each other. And I guess some people are just wired differently.
Well,
I
like
don't know.
I have a really quite a biased perspective on this because the kink community is a lot of couples as well, but the vast majority of couples in the kink community would be open, have an open relationship to some degree, or they would live a polyamorous lifestyle in that they have not just multiple sexual partners, but multiple partners. And for me, within the kink community, when I entered the kink scene in Dublin, I was with someone and we went onto the scene together. And definitely the atmosphere sort of, you eventually drink the Kool-Aid and you think, oh, in order to be properly kinky and enlightened and not, you know, a Luddite, you know, and not be like repressed and jealous, I need to try to be open. I need to try to be poly. And so that happened through a series of events. And that's why Michelle had 2 simultaneous breakups in 2016.
She went poly.
Wow.
Because I went poly. And so...
2 breakups at the same time
At the
sounds
same
rough,
time, it was
man.
so great. But, you know...
But that's what you get
I
into.
learned, I learned that I am a monogamous person.
Okay.
So I think there is quite a bit of pressure within these scenes to be, you know, more enlightened and be more open.
Yeah.
But I think you're either, as Sarah says, you're either wired for it or you're not. And out of the many, many, many people I know who profess to be poly or profess to be wired that way, I think I know 2 people. I can, in my head, 2 people who I know who I think are genuinely actually set up for it and are emotionally capable of doing it.
But there's a big difference between swinging and poly. Like poly, as you said, is you're not just having sex with different people, you're having different relationships, like actual relationships. Whereas swinging is like your stereotypical swinging couple, they will have a completely monogamous relationship in every regard, except for once a month, they pack the kids off to the grannies, they go to a club in Dublin and they fuck a load of strangers in a room together, or maybe not together. He might be downstairs having a pint, she could be upstairs, and they go home together and that's it.
They never see that person again.
Wow.
Or maybe they do, and they're friends and it's fine, but there's no other relationship.
Right, okay.
Do you know what I mean?
It sounds
just
like the
sex.
emotional maturity that you would need for something like polyamory is just beyond my remit. Like,
Way beyond,
I wouldn't be able for that.
I even think the openness and the sharing, I now have a very strong no sharing policy. Yeah. So I just wouldn't be able for that. For me now, it's not worth the risk, because as much as you can say, you know, I'm not gonna be into anybody else more than I'll ever be into you. Yeah. I'm not gonna enjoy sex more than I enjoy sex with you, with anybody else. I'm not gonna like
that. That's the thing, and
like, you cannot. Yeah. Like, take it from me. Like, you just do not know what is gonna happen, what kind of chemistry you're gonna have with somebody, and how that will develop.
That's a scary.
And when you open your relationship like that, it's a risk. You're risking what you have for something a little bit more. And that's totally fine if that's what you want to do. And lots of couples do it really well. Yeah. But lots of couples fall foul of it too.
Like, we tried twice, and both times we both chickened out. Yeah. I would like to think if we had stayed together for that, we would keep trying, and that eventually we'd figure it out. I
was going to say, like, what happens if you find someone and say, you know, you fall in love with them, or like you said, Michelle, you want to have a monogamous relationship, but the kinks in you and those kind of urges that you have to maybe do those things are just in no way a part of the other person's ideology of what's going to happen in their life. I mean, is it something that you guys would be willing to give up if you found somebody? No.
I don't think I could fall in love with anybody who wasn't kinky. I just don't think I could be attracted to them.
What if it happens?
I think it comes down, though, to sexual compatibility. Yeah. Like, are you going to fall in love with somebody that you're not having the kind of sex you want to have with?
See, I don't think it's possible. I don't know. I feel like what I look for in a man now is so different, and it's not better and it's not worse, it's just different. Yeah. And I'm not attracted to the men that I used to be attracted to.
Wow.
I think there's probably a certain amount of compromise that I could give in that, you know, if somebody was into, you know, certain things and not into other things, I could easily give up the scene, the community, the sites, no problem, see you later, do that tomorrow, wouldn't bother me. But the actual physicality of the type of sex that I like,
Yeah.
I don't think I could give that up, and I don't really think anybody can
It's part of who
really
you
put that
are.
aside. Whether your kink is, oh, I like to have my hair pulled a little bit, but not too much, and that's the only thing that I like, or it's this whole range of things. The type of sex you like is the type of sex you like. You can't change that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's too. It's
And
too
I don't think
important
anybody
a part
should
of
have
you.
to give it up. No.
Yeah.
I want to hear more about sex clubs. So, but we're going to take a really...
Everyone
Niamh, would
does.
you like to come to a sex club?
We're going to get into that in the second half of the show.
Chicken.
First off, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be back to maybe not answer that question, but we're going to come back and talk more about sex club in a minute. But Rebecca O'Keefe joined me earlier on today, and she is our Valentine's Day correspondent, even though she does not want to be known as that. Have a listen. I'm joined now in studio by our resident Valentine's Day correspondent, Rebecca O'Keefe.
Is that my name? Is that what you're calling me?
You are my Valentine's Day correspondent for this year. So
Okay.
welcome. You're very welcome to the Valentine's Week special of Girls with Goals.
Little out of my zone, my remit, if you will.
Well, you have in the past described yourself as chronically single. That's
Yes.
how, I think it's what our friendship is based on. if I'm
Certainly
being-
what my professional life is
Yeah,
based on.
exactly.
Yeah.
So before we get into it, and I want to hear a little bit about the history of Valentine's Day, because I don't think a
Yeah,
lot of
I did
people
a bit
would
of
know.
research on that.
Yeah, okay, well, that's good. But what do you think of Valentine's Day as a whole, first off?
I fucking hate it.
Wow, straight in there with the F-bomb.
You know me.
Cool.
You can bleep that out, first bleep of the episode. No, I think it's a big, fat Hallmark fest.
Okay.
That's designed to make money.
Okay.
And not even, I thought about, that's not a cynical I'm single and I have no plans on Valentine's Day thing. I would have always thought that.
Okay.
I just think it's like, I don't know. I get the whole, show the people you love that you love them, but also there is no need to spend 100 quid on 6 roses. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I've never spent a huge amount of money, but I do understand the commercial side of it, and I do understand how it has turned into this kind of
Beast.
global
This
beast.
Pink and red beast.
So what's the root of it? So Saint Valentine
himself.
himself.
Man himself.
Who is he? What's his crack? What did he do?
Fun fact that I learned, he's buried around the corner from here, which is very random.
I found that out today.
Yeah.
It's
well,
so creepy.
I say he's buried. There are
relics.
bits of him.
Yeah.
Like a couple of drops of his blood. I think his heart or what's left of it. I mean, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago, he was executed by a Roman emperor. Yeah, I know, it's wild.
And he was executed because
He was executed because he was performing illegal weddings, which is actually really cute. Basically, this, I can't remember which emperor it was, but he basically decided single men made better soldiers. Fair. Basically, they weren't allowed to get married, but he was like,
single men
make better soldiers because they've no distractions. It's kind of like, do you watch Game of Thrones?
No.
Okay, never mind. Moving on. But he was like, there's obviously, if you don't have women in your life, you won't be distracted.
Right, okay.
But Valentine.
But obviously there were soldiers who were madly
in love with women, so
and so they
Valentine-
wanted to get married. So he
and Valentine
performed-
did it on the sly.
See, that's kind of sweet.
Yeah.
And so he became a saint on February 14th, and then there was something about birds pairing mid-February, and so that came to be about the romance and
Yeah, I think February
turned into
itself
that, yeah.
is like the month of love.
Okay.
Like a couple of things happened. I'm not sure, but there are actually
Great research, Beck.
3 Saint Valentines.
Oh.
And they all have different stories, but that one specifically that's buried
Around the
our
corner.
Whitefriar Church.
Whitefriar Church, yeah.
He's the main man.
And so couples kind of go and they write little notes.
I know, it's really
and they
cute.
leave the notes with Saint
Yeah.
Valentine to kind of...
That I get.
That's cute.
That's nice.
Yeah.
But you don't need to go and buy your boyfriend like a HD TV. Unnecessary.
Oh, Jesus, is that what is expected?
I feel like people go berserk.
No, bit of lingerie.
An
Keep
ex-boyfriend
'em
of
happy.
mine, when I was a teenager, bought me a pink Nintendo DS.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's a really
Still
good
have it.
present, yeah.
Thanks for nothing.
I have to say, I've always been treated quite well on Valentine's Day, but I actually think, you know, in terms of the podcast and in terms of equality, I've probably fallen down a little bit because I don't think I've ever actually bought a Valentine's gift
For somebody else.
For
You
somebody
always get
else.
them.
I always get. Isn't that just the worst? That's awful.
That is bad.
Now I will put on some sexy lingerie. I won't do a dance, but like I'll.
I don't know why.
I'm not gonna like dance around.
Be
But
sound, dance.
no, I'm not, I'm not
Give
gonna
him a
dance.
little dance.
I guarantee I've never gotten any complaints though on Valentine's Day. But it does seem to be something that the men seem to be, in my past relationships anyway, the ones who've given gifts, and I've just kind of like, okay, because I don't buy into the commercial things. That's my excuse, basically.
Cheap bitch.
Exactly, cheap bitch. Oh, there's so much to buy.
I actually get my mom flowers every Valentine's Day.
Do you know, it's cute. My dad always gives me a Valentine's
Yeah,
card.
because it's not necessarily the person you're shagging.
No.
It's people you
Well,
love.
No, absolutely, yeah. It's cute. So you have been writing a little bit about Valentine's Day on site.
I have.
A couple of interesting articles that caught my eye. And they're not exactly lovey-dovey.
Romantic? Would
No,
you
they're
call
not.
them romantic?
I would not. One of them reads, important, you can now name a cockroach after your ex this Valentine's Day.
You can
Talk us through
You
it,
can
Beck.
adopt a cockroach. I actually went on to do it. I'm gonna do it after recording for one of my friends' ex-boyfriends.
Really?
So you go. The best part is, it's $150. So
To-
you don't
yeah.
even have to worry about that sweet expense. Basically, you go on. It's a wildlife conservation fund, and it's essentially a way for them to earn money, but in a gas way.
Okay.
And you go.
And nothing happens to the cockroaches. They're grand,
they're,
right?
They're cared for.
Okay, lovely.
if you will. But you can go
Lovely.
on and you can either adopt one for yourself or for your friend, and you can choose whether or not to actually name your cockroach.
Okay.
I will be naming mine. And you can give it a nickname and stuff. And I think then you probably get like an email certificate being like, Niamh Maher has adopted a cockroach. Its name is blah, 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 and happy Valentine's Day. And I
Okay.
think it's hilarious.
And there was another one as well that
The
you...
snake
the
one.
snake one,
Yeah,
yeah.
I actually didn't write the snake one.
Okay.
But I think similar concept.
So you can name a snake,
snake
after,
after your ex.
Now, to be honest with you, I feel like snake is more in tune with some of the words that are thrown around when people talk about exes more than like, oh, he was
He's
such
a
a
cockroach.
cockroach. Never heard it.
I know, but it's just kind of nice to be like, haha.
Yeah, interesting one. I have never really thought about doing that for somebody, and I doubt a lot of people would do that, but you're going to do it for your friend?
For my friend's ex, yeah.
Okay.
But I also think it's something that's almost funny.
It's almost like two fingers to Valentine's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's just, because it's so cheap, it's kind of just like gas. Like if your friend had just had a really bad breakup, you'd almost do it to just put a smile on your face. Do you know that way?
Absolutely, yeah. And speaking of friends, what about this whole hashtag Galentines thing that's kind of taken over?
Yeah.
I've seen it a lot over the last few years,
So have I.
especially on social media and stuff. And it seems to be for people who are single more so than anything else, who are just like, F Valentines, I'm going to spend it with my friends, and then they just arrange a big night out and go out and have a Galentine. So are you for or against this, or what do you think?
Like, I'm not against it, but also, realistically, Valentine's Day is on a Thursday.
This year.
So
Every year? This year.
let's all, go home after our jobs, have dinner, do your normal thing, and go to bed.
Right.
Just because it's I don't know, I'm not going to do it. Like, I'm going to live my day like it's a normal day.
Okay.
But it's a nice idea if you're like sad about being single and all your friends are really sad. It's kind of nice to like get together.
Yeah. But you're not sad about being
No,
single.
not at all. I
but-
couldn't give a shit. No. That's why I'm not doing it. Having a boyfriend would stress me out, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Does it make you, around this time, does it make you more interested in dating? Does it make you almost maybe want to go on dating apps a little bit?
No, I think if I was to like whore myself out on a dating app the week of Valentine's Day, it would scream desperation. Scream it. But
It
no,
would.
it's not like, I don't look at it, I don't like walk past the window of like Argos and cry when I see that stupid bear holding the heart all that. It doesn't.
Argos.
I was the first name that came to my mind, I don't know. But like, it doesn't make me like nostalgic for a relationship or like sad. I think Christmas actually is a more affecting time for single people because it's like
Yeah.
everyone's in a good mood and it's cold and people are being cute with each other.
And what do you think about all of the people in couples who are going to be posting about their gifts?
That boy did good.
Boy done good. Yeah.
I mean, whatever brings you joy.
Yeah, if it sparks joy in you.
But if I end up,
It's slightly competitive though, isn't it?
yeah,
As
if
in,
I
like,
end up
I got-
blocking you, that's fair too.
I do think that to be honest with you, it happens around Christmas as well. There's this weird competitive of like, look at all the gifts that I got.
Yeah, and some people get crazy shit.
I know, yeah. And like,
Why did your boyfriend buy you a car? That's unacceptable.
it does seem to happen around Valentine's as well.
Yeah.
That like, you'll start seeing them kind of creep in and then it's just taking over your entire social media feed for the whole day.
Yeah, just
but
pictures of flowers.
Course, but not judging. Like, I mean, that's fine if that's something that kind
Exactly,
of brings you
if
good.
it brings you
I'm going to be
joy.
alone on Valentine's, so I'm not going to be posting any pictures
But
or
aren't you
anything
doing?
like that.
You're doing 2 different Valentines. You're going to have either week at the end. You know.
Yeah,
Aren't
but that
you?
was like a secret that we weren't meant to tell anybody. So you've just absolutely
Cut that out.
you've just ruined that. Yeah. God damn it, Beck.
I didn't know it was a secret. You have to tell me things.
Yeah, because we're not going to be together on Valentine's. We're celebrating it the week before and the week after as well.
Cute. What
Oh,
are you
it's
gonna do?
awful.
What
It's
are you
not
gonna
cute.
do? What are you
It's
gonna
not
do? What are
cute
you
at all.
gonna do?
I might take him to see the weird blood, the Valentine's blood thing.
Senior Valentine.
Yeah, I might take him in to see Signora Valentine.
Signora Valentine.
Because I didn't know that he was here, so...
I always had it in the back of my head, but I always kind of thought it was one of those like bullshit urban legends. Oh,
Yeah.
Like, isn't Santa Claus buried somewhere in Ireland too? I thought.
Well, I know...
And St. Jude
St. Jude is in
which
the same place.
Amazing.
So, like, there's Valentine, and then there's the patron saint of hopeless cases.
It's me. Niamh is Valentine. I'm St. Jude.
You're just, like, in the corner of the church scribbling to St. Jude. Jude!
Help me.
Hopeless case. Just walk straight past Valentine. Pop it in the hope. I'm just joking, for God's sake. Okay, so that's good. Thank you so much for being
You're
our
welcome.
Valentine's Day correspondent. Yeah, it's been fantastic. And I think next year we might have you back on as well.
Hopefully things may change.
Come off it.
No, I'm joking.
You want a boyfriend?
No.
Let's go and do a Galentine's together on Thursday, shall we?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Lovely.
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 Rebecca O'Keefe, thank you so much, as always.
Thanks for having me.
And whatever else.
Happy Valentine's Day, y'all.
Happy Valentine's Day. Okay, so we're back. So I do want to talk more about the girls are trying to make me blush, and it's kind of working. But I suppose I want to ask a little bit more about the sex clubs because obviously these are the kind of juicy details, and you go into it in the second episode, I think, of Pure Filth.
The third
Oh,
is
sorry,
swinging.
so the
Third
third.
is swinging, yeah.
So I would highly recommend listening to Pure Filth. You can go and get it on all the podcast apps because I'm not going to be on them asking stupid questions, but I want to ask the questions for our listeners and for our readers of Her.ie because I find it absolutely fascinating. So sex clubs, they have a few around the country, and like you were saying earlier, Michelle, you can go to them and you can have sex with strangers, or you can watch, or why don't you guys tell me about them more so, because I've never been to one. So how did you even, was it with your ex-partner that you kind of discovered them first?
No, so after I stopped seeing him and I joined this website, FetLife, I made a friend on the website who is a woman, and she's a good few years older than me, has been in swinging and kink for a long time now, and she had a kind of community of friends already kind of built up over the years, and I started hanging out with her, and then she invited me to this swinging club one night, and I was like, yeah, I'll be there.
Was the first thing that you went to at like a public party or a private party?
The first event, okay, so the first event I went to was a kink event. That shocked the living daylights out of me because,
Really?
yeah, a lot of the kink scene in Ireland is based around impact play, which is like flogging, that kind of stuff.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
like kind of pain and pleasure.
Whipping and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
and that is just so hugely not my thing.
Right.
So I got a bit of a fright because I was like, oh my god, do I have to let people beat me up? Like I don't want to let people
So
beat
very
me up.
50 Shades, that
very,
kind of
very
thing.
50 Shades, although nobody on the King scene likes 50 Shades.
No.
Because it's
bad
wrong.
representation.
Misrepresentation.
Yeah.
You don't even have to be in the kink scene to
know
see
that,
that's
yeah.
a bad representation.
Yeah, that's really
like.
not a good relationship.
No, it seems, yeah.
And then I went to my first swingers party was a private party, in her house.
Okay.
And that was really fun. That was a really nice way to kind of ease into it because I knew pretty much everybody there, or I'd spoken to them in like this chat group a lot.
Okay.
And she knew everybody there.
So she was
and
kind of like slowly...
easing me in, yeah.
Wow.
And she's great that way. Like she's introduced a lot of people to swinging and kink in this way. And then we went to you were with me on my first night.
Oh yeah, that was
all
our first
night.
together.
So you guys are obviously really great friends and stuff. So you guys have seen each other have sex?
She has seen me. I haven't seen her. I am an what am I?
Exhibitionist.
Thank you. But you are not. Like you are not opposed to having people in the room. But I'm like, I don't want to do it if there's nobody watching. I
Yeah.
can't be bothered.
Your rule is if nobody sees it, doesn't count. Did it
If
even
nobody's
happen?
watching and it hasn't been videoed, it didn't happen.
Didn't even-
Sarah, so you're an exhibitionist, and that's kind of a thing within the community
That's
as
a
well.
kink,
Oh, it's
yeah,
a kink.
yeah.
Oh, okay. So you love people watching you.
Yeah, and then some people are like really into voyeurism.
So just watching.
Just watching. So at these clubs you will get, I think most people are voyeurs.
Yeah.
This is just based off my experience. I'm sure people would disagree. Is she shaking her head?
I'm just like, who
I can't
doesn't
see
like
you.
to watch people having sex?
I don't.
That's what porn is.
I
Like, you
don't
know,
like to watch
like
people
everybody
having sex.
likes watching people having sex is sexy.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
everybody likes it.
Yeah, but I would never go to that club and go upstairs and watch.
Just to watch.
Yeah, I'm like, if I'm not upstairs, being watched, I'm downstairs having a drink.
Right. And so can you just kind of explain, so when you walk in, because obviously a lot of people maybe only know about these kind of clubs from movies. So there is a certain level of seediness that comes across from like a sex club. Like, you've seen it in some films where it's dirty and all this kind of
cum on the floor.
like, I mean, used condoms and shite like this just like
Yeah.
rolls through your head. So this is just like a normal club downstairs. There's a bar and you can have
There's
a
a
drink.
dance floor, there's couches, there's a
Okay.
smoking area.
There's music and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you
and
know,
then it's upstairs where all the fun happens.
Yeah, we're talking about Ireland here, so it's
Yeah.
not Eyes Wide Shut level of opulence.
Okay, I've never seen that.
But it's not dirty, it's not grimy,
it's not gross.
The
it's-
owners take really good care of it.
Basic, but clean and,
Comfortable.
they've put a lot of effort into, the decor and
Yeah.
clean and comfortable and a
And
nice
so
space.
you're just chatting to people in the
Yeah.
same way that you'd be chatting to people in Coppers, right? As in,
Absolutely.
The exact same way.
So, like, if you like somebody and you see somebody, you just kind of start talking to them, and then do you say, "Do you want to go upstairs?" I'm mortified because what is that? Just what you say?
Yeah, that's it. That's
Pretty
literally
much.
exactly what you say.
Oh my god. Okay, I'd be so bad at this.
You have to
club.
remember as well, there are people who will go to these clubs and they won't hook up with random people. So like they'll have other people in the swinging community that they always kind of play with at these events, and it's just like this kind of unspoken thing.
So it's kind of like pre-arranged type things.
Pretty much, yeah.
okay.
And then you'll just like vibe off people. Like if you're flirting, great, that will progress.
Yeah.
Like you can kiss and stuff downstairs, but like it sounds really awkward and like, hello, would you like to have sex with me?
It's probably just because I'm describing it that way.
No,
but
but
it
it's
doesn't
not.
say-
It's very natural and
And then-
organic.
So what's upstairs then? Tell me, talk me through it.
Upstairs is like the upstairs of a corridor of a house, right? So the upstairs of a corridor, what? The upstairs corridor of a house.
Okay, so we're looking at a corridor.
Yeah, so you've kind of got like a narrow hallway and then there's rooms off to either side. One of the rooms has 3 big beds that are kind of partitioned, but it's open.
Okay.
Another room has a hot tub and a steam room and a
that's
shower.
fun.
Yeah, that's where we spend
That's
a
where
lot
we
of time.
hang out. Yeah.
Okay.
Then another room has one huge bed.
You could get 3 couples on it, maybe max.
Yeah, and then a couch for people to watch.
2 couches.
2 couches, thank you. And then there are these little. Do you know those cubicle hotel rooms in like Japan where it's like you open a little door in the wall and you just
Tiny
climb
ones,
into a bed?
They're like coffins.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
There's 2
Couple
of
of
those. So for people who want to play but they really want privacy, you can
so
just hop in there.
private. Oh, okay.
They're totally private.
Jeez,
And then
you wouldn't want to be claustrophobic though.
no, you
You
wouldn't.
really
You
would not.
Okay.
And then there's also the St Andrew's Cross and a spanking stool and a sex swing.
St Andrew's Cross is like the classic X-shaped cross that you would have seen literally in the movies, and people go up against it
you're
like
cuffed.
this.
Okay.
You can cuff your ankles and wrists to it.
I just
Front
wouldn't-
ways or back ways, and then stuff gets done to you.
It just wouldn't be my thing at
And then
all.
there's like a classic sex swing, like one of those. I've never seen anybody in it.
Have you not?
No.
I have seen lots of people
Oh,
in it.
I've never seen anybody in it.
Maybe it's because it's kind of tucked in around the corner.
Maybe. And a spanking bench.
Wow,
And
so like upstairs it's all go.
Yeah.
It is all
and
go,
there's
and it
like
does
they'll
get very
have
busy.
floggers and whips and things just kind of hanging on the walls. There's lots of equipment. Beside every bed is a bowl of condoms.
Yeah.
And there's lots of towels and just wipes, general equipment.
sprays.
So tell me, what are the people like? So what can you expect? And I know you kind of like touched on it on one of the episodes, like people were kind of asking, are the people that are there classically attractive and this kind of thing? And I mean, it was a valid point. Like,
Yeah.
what's the age range of people that are going to these things?
It's a complete mix.
Okay.
I would say the kink scene is a little bit more diverse in terms of range of attractiveness and age.
I mean, I don't like saying like classically attractive because
Yeah.
God only knows what people are attracted to. That's
No, but
it's
like
not a relevant
conventional
thing.
beauty, like
Yeah.
thin, beautiful women, ripped men. I know what you mean.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
as in, like, what's the clientele? I mean, I think that's
Yeah.
kind of a fair question.
So I think there's absolutely a range, and just like walking into any pub or club, sometimes there's going to be like a raft of really hot people there, and sometimes not so much. But there definitely is, I think, an impression, especially with swingers clubs, that it's going to be just full of old, gross men, which is
Not true.
unfair, but sometimes not entirely inaccurate.
They do limit the amount of single men that
They
can go
do.
to these things, and that's there for a reason, obviously.
do, yeah.
Right, and so
But that means that the majority of men who are there are married.
Okay.
And so are obviously more likely to be a little bit older
Yeah.
than your 21-year-old single guy.
Exactly.
But when it comes to sex and alcohol and swinging and that environment, you definitely want to go with the older, more experienced guys than the
Yeah.
younger lads who are just like, oh, with
You said-
excitement.
like you said something interesting as well, that everybody that's in these clubs are usually more sober than what
Yeah.
you would find, out maybe in town on a Friday or Saturday night.
Much more, I think.
I think that's interesting because I know for like myself, just talking about this, I would probably want to get absolutely hammered before I go. But then I suppose you want to know what's going on and you want to make sure that everything.
You can't do that, and
Yeah.
particularly in the kink scene, it would be seen as a massive risk.
And a red flag probably as well.
Yeah, because if you're intoxicated, you can't give consent.
Yeah.
Like in law,
Right.
if you're not capable of giving like informed consent if
Yeah.
you're drunk, so it would be really frowned upon in that scene, because people are hitting you. You might be hitting someone.
Yeah.
It's just a
Some of
huge
it is
no-no.
dangerous. Like, some of it is physically dangerous stuff, and you
Yeah.
have to have your wits about you.
Yeah.
And it is frowned upon, I think, in the swinging scene as well. Like, it's not cool to be messy drunk.
No,
Yeah.
it's definitely frowned upon. I've seen guys getting kicked out of the clubs a few times, and I can tell you that they were nowhere near as drunk as you would have to be to get kicked out of my local pub.
Right, okay.
But they were still too drunk for swinging.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Right,
So
yeah.
like the owners and the people that work in this place, like they keep on top of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as soon as a drunk guy walks in, like you can kind of see all the women getting a bit like, oh no,
Yeah,
not
a little bit antsy,
yeah,
and
like
they're not comfortable because there's a much higher standard for consent in these spaces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Much higher. Like, I've been touched more inappropriately in coppers than I ever have in one of these clubs.
Yes, which I think is, we haven't gotten into that in the podcast yet, but for me, one of the things that I always try and get across to people who are new to this whole idea is that I have never had sexual experiences where I felt safer
Okay.
than in swinging and kink, because consent is such a huge thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
Whereas, you go down to coppers and like nobody knows what
Yeah.
consent is.
I've actually been a little bit spoiled by going to kink events in particular, because at most kink events you'd have DMs, which are dungeon monitors. And if you have any, it's not always in a dungeon, sometimes it's in the upstairs of a pub.
Just like a staff member who's keeping an eye on things.
Exactly, yeah. I used to be one at some of the events, but you would go to them and say, that person is being unsafe, or that person made me feel uncomfortable, and that person would be out
Yeah.
the door.
Okay.
And now when I go to a normal club and some dude touches my ass, I'm up at the bouncer, I'm like, he touched my ass, and the bouncer is like, oh, cry me a river, I don't care. Like,
So can I ask, right, so obviously if you guys are going to these clubs and stuff like this, and this is something that you're very much a part of, and it's something that you obviously enjoy, what happens if you are playing with somebody and you just have this incredible spark and emotional connection with them? Like, do you attach emotions with the sex that you're having with strangers, or is it not a thing at all when it comes? Because I mean, like, a big question, and it's something that has been said, and I don't think that it's a fair thing, but I think that, a lot of women would say that they find it difficult to separate emotion from sex. Is that something that even comes into your mind at all, or is it just, no, this is just about pleasure, it's got nothing to do with emotions or sparks or anything like that?
I think at the end, whether you're kinky or you're a swinger or you're just somebody who likes casual sex in your home that's very vanilla, you know, you have to be realistic about the fact that sex is a very intimate thing, and it is easy to kind of confuse like sexual chemistry and feelings, and also it's easy for sexual chemistry to turn into feelings. Like, let's be mature about it and say this is a risk.
Well, it's pretty much like what all songs are written about, you know?
Part
like
of the
catching
physiological
feelings.
purpose of sex is to build intimacy and develop those
even
feelings.
if you're in like a casual sex space in your life, there is a part of you, no matter who you are, deep down in you that is looking for the one all the time. And if you're going to deny that, then you are not engaging in a level of self-awareness that you need to have for this.
But do you think you're going to find the one in one of these clubs?
I don't know.
I would say, and this is a conversation that we've had quite recently with one of our friends, you're as likely to find them in one of those clubs as you are anywhere else.
Yeah.
Statistically, the more men you meet.
It happens when it happens.
Yeah.
It is pure 100% chance.
Yeah.
You don't know when you're going to meet that person that has that spark, and you just click with that person. And we all know what it's like to meet somebody with absolutely no intention of, you know, oh, I'm looking for the one, I'm looking for a partner. You just meet that person and you're like, oh crap, this person is for me.
Yeah.
That was how I met my ex. Like, it was through this like swinging website, and it was just casual sex, and
then it just evolved.
Yeah,
into
and I
something
think
else.
that can happen anywhere. And I really sort of push against the notion that people in casual sex spaces are swinging that they're not open to that, because I think deep down pretty much everybody is on some level open to it. Even guys who are like, oh, I only want casual. Those guys, when they meet the woman that they click with and they want to be with, it will change for them.
you can't help how you're wired. You know what I mean?
It will.
And
it will
like,
change.
Do you guys sleep with married men?
Absolutely not.
No, and that's just a decision that you make because
Personal decision.
obviously there's married men there.
There's a lot.
And that's the way they're wired and they're into that kind of thing. But that's not your situation. You're not into it.
No, I don't.
Michelle doesn't share.
I don't share. But also, there's a lot of guys. Aside from
You said
going,
that's so Michelle doesn't share.
She doesn't share.
I don't share.
Like, I'm really disappointed.
Aside from the parties, you know, you meet guys like once off. You might go for a drink and decide to hook up or whatever, much like Tinder. And there's a lot of, we would say, attached, because not every guy who has a missus at home is married.
Yeah.
There's a lot of attached guys there who are cheating.
Yeah.
Wow. And so
Like
their
a
missus or
huge number
partner
of them.
doesn't know anything about it.
Yeah, and they're really easy to spot.
Because they look furtive and they're just like looking around.
Oh, there's just a million different little tells. Like they
Yeah.
don't
Little
have any.
red flags.
They don't have any pictures up.
Their profile says they can't
Yeah.
accommodate. They don't want to give you their number. They'll just message you
Yeah.
via the site.
They're chatting to you all day, like sending you a text message every 3.5 seconds from 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. And then you don't hear from them again until 9 a.m. the next morning. You're
Oh my
like,
God, that's
oh,
such a good
you're
thing."
married.
Okay.
So you can weed those out, but even guys who say they're playing with permission, that's not for me, because I've been in that situation before and I know how destructive it can be, even if everybody is consenting and everybody's on board. Feelings can happen.
Yeah.
You can get attached to that person who isn't available. And then what are you going to do? Someone's heart's going to get broken. And to me, it's no different for people who are adamant that that they don't want a relationship. That person's just not available. So don't have sex with them loads of times. Don't get attached. You know, don't be texting them. If you must have sex with them, do, and just move on and don't see them again.
Yeah.
There's ways to, you know, manage the whole...
Yeah, you figure this out. Like, it's a learning process, and everybody has different boundaries. So
Yeah.
they just have to figure out what your boundaries are, and then once you figure them out, you just maintain those boundaries all the time.
So I'm going to have to wrap up soon because we have been talking for quite a bit. But before I go, can you tell me a little bit about what your individual kinks are? Or is that too much? You don't have to. But I'm just intrigued.
You go, Sarah.
Okay, I'm a sub,
Okay.
which means I'm submissive. But I am a particular type of sub known as a brat,
Okay.
which means that I really enjoy like challenging authority, pissing men off. What else? Like,
But surely
I
that...
like being made to submit.
Okay,
And
isn't-
kind of tricked into it.
So you would be with a dom then, isn't that it?
Yes.
But surely a dom does not want a bratty sub.
most doms would like all bratty subs dead.
So you have to really
I have
hunt.
I have to, exactly, yeah, it's quite hard. So the vast majority of the sex I have, that kink doesn't get included in it, and I just have to like pack that part of myself away. But then when I do get it, it's brilliant.
Wow, okay. So, I mean, it sounds like you've got streaks of dom in you then as well.
Yeah. We kind of laugh about brats. What is it? They top from the bottom, so they kind of try and run the ship without letting the dom know that they're trying to run the ship, and then the dom has to constantly be like, is she topping me from the bottom? What's happening here? So it's just really fun.
And can you tell, because like you said in the break there that I was a brat as well, so do you like find yourself putting people into...
Constantly,
Okay, and you think I'm a brat?
100%.
I think you're wrong.
No, 100% I do.
I think I'm a dom.
No, you're not. Every brat thinks she's a dom.
Damn it, I'm just playing into it there. But that's so funny, because you're obviously like, you see things in people that maybe aren't in the community, and like you said yourself that you were always kinky but you just didn't know that you were.
Yeah. And now I look at people that I've known my whole life and I can see a different side of them.
Wow.
Which is kind of odd, because like I've noticed a couple of times myself being quite subby to guys in my life who I am not at all attracted to, but I've just noticed their dom side, and now it's bringing out my subby side, and I'm like, did I just submit to him?
Yeah.
Shit. I have to try and keep it in check.
And Michelle, you said that you weren't an exhibitionist earlier on, so are you and Sarah very different in terms of your kinks?
It's funny because technically we have the same kink, but it expresses itself in a completely different way. So I'm a sub as well. I'm submissive too, but mine is a much more the classic. I very much more do what I'm told than Sarah does. I don't do the sort of the challenge, like the challenging, the authority, but it takes time for me to get to that place with someone.
Okay.
And it's a long process of like identifying, okay, well, I can trust you and I know that you get it.
Yeah.
But I suppose, so in that way, we're both subs, but it expresses
You're kind of
itself
more
in
of a
very
classic-
different ways. More classic.
Yeah.
We're very different types of subs.
Yeah, absolutely. I like the real like doting dominant, and I would be more into like the, let's say, the traditional like spanking, rope, things like that, like restraints and stuff.
Wow.
Which I can take or leave, but it's really, really about the psychological stuff for me.
Yeah.
But I enjoy all that other stuff as well.
I find it so interesting, and the thing is, I think if anybody is listening to this now or watching it as well, I think what's great about what you guys are doing with the podcast and just kind of talking about it a little bit more openly is maybe opening the minds of women and men who may, like you, Sarah, have always had a little kink but not really realised what it was or haven't explored it either. And I think it's eye-opening to know that there are these communities in Ireland, because I genuinely had no idea. Do you know what I mean? And I'm 32, I've been having sex for a long time, so like, I didn't even know that it was around. I didn't know it was an option.
I think that what we wanted to do with the podcast was really just like give women a chance to kind of empower themselves. And whether you're kinky or not, like we just end up talking about kink a lot, but really it's more about just general women, you know, and their sexuality, and like kind of trying to show women that it's okay to talk about sex, it's okay to enjoy it, it's okay to not feel guilty. It's okay to admit that you masturbate. Like, you haven't set an orphanage on fire. You've just made yourself come. It's all fine.
Yeah, well, it's sexual desire as well. And I think that's kind of one of the things that, you know, you spoke about it a little bit on the podcast about the struggles that you've had in the past with people talking about feminism and talking about, you know, these kind of communities and being this open with it, and how, like, can you be a feminist and still, you know, want to be tied up and want to be submissive and stuff like that? I mean, does that kind of line of questioning irritate the shit out of you?
No, because it's really valid.
Yeah.
And we've definitely both had experiences in our own sex lives where our own kind of sense of feminism has been tested. And like, I've had a good few times where I've been like, oh my God, like, I shouldn't have done that, or I shouldn't have enjoyed that because I've just been objectified. And
So you
I shouldn't
felt
have...
shame, essentially.
Yeah, but not shame because of what I've done, shame because of how some branches of feminism dictate what women should and shouldn't do, which is literally the opposite to the point of feminism.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing. But I suppose it all comes from, I think a lot of it, and I sent you guys that article about the hubbub that's happening over in Dundrum in Dublin at the moment with that advertisement for, I think it's agent provocateur, I don't know how to say it properly. But it's a woman in her underwear, basically, and she's advertising underwear. And there is a campaign to get it taken down, saying, and the guy, there was this one man in particular who's talking, I heard him on all the clips, and he was just saying that we have lost our moral fibre in this country entirely. And he was like, look back 20 years, at least we had some kind of dignity and all this kind of stuff. And this is a picture of a woman in her underwear, and it's about underwear that women want to wear, are wearing, you know, in their homes, are obviously wearing to clubs around the country as well. And it just poses the question of, like, you know, I mean,
What the hell is going on?
what the hell is going on?
If you even look at what she's wearing, like she's wearing this really lovely, like subtle pastel. It's like a full cup. It's
beautiful.
Bra.
Really
She's
pretty.
wearing this really like high waisted thing. Like I've seen women wearing less on the street. Like she's not particularly nude. Yes, she's reclined. She looks gorgeous. And part of
That's
me,
it. She's lying on her back. Yeah.
the feminist part of me is like, okay, not so hot on, you know, women being objectified as a means to sell products. But this is an ad for lingerie. If she was in her knickers selling a handbag, I might be a bit more, well, why does she need to be in her knickers to sell a handbag? But she's selling the lingerie, and how else are you going to
Nobody is
promote it?
complaining about the guys in their Calvin Kleins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we all love those ads. Why is it okay for them?
Yeah, you know, the Diet Coke ads. Nobody's, there's no moral outrage about those.
How long is the Diet Coke ad going on? I mean, women have been
40 years,
saving that
50
thing
years.
to their phone for a while.
Absolutely.
And yet, when a woman gets into that position, it really, there's a specific group of people, I don't want to tar all men with the same brush, but there is definitely a specific group of men in particular who find that so intimidating.
Yeah.
I think, and women as well, though. Like, I think a lot of women would see that as degrading.
Yeah, but I just don't. I don't understand why. I can't get my head around
Well,
that.
I mean, you know, whatever about that ad and whatever about that guy who I think is just absolutely beyond reason. I do think it's important to talk more about our own sexual identities and to talk about our own sexual desires. And I'm like starting this thing that we're going to be running. I don't want to talk about it too much, but we're going to be delving more into female sexuality and talking more about things like the orgasm and things like this that historically haven't been spoken about as much. I mean, I know when I was growing up and stuff, it wasn't really something that I spoke about a lot in my teen years anyway. I definitely didn't get it for a while as well. So, and when I did, I wanted to throw a parade. So I think it's one of those things that I think it's really important, and I love what you guys are doing. I think it's awesome. But also, before you go, I want to talk just about the impact of doing something like this and putting yourself out there this much. I mean, do you worry at all? Because nobody can say anything to you, like an employer or anything like that. Nobody can tell you that you can't do this. Obviously, you're allowed to, which is incredible. But do you ever worry about the impact that it might have on your professional or your family life?
I don't worry about it professionally now because I know that the employer that I work for wouldn't have a problem with it, but I did used to work in a much more corporate environment, and I would never have done it then because I would perhaps have worried about it. And within the communities there is actually a lot of concern about being outed because people work for the state or people work with children or whatever. So but with the podcast, I don't worry about it affecting me professionally. Family-wise, there are certain, you know, cousins and things that I would be close with. I have no problem with them knowing about this side of my life. But my parents, my extended family, you know, my parents and let's say their siblings, does anybody really want their parents knowing what they get up to in the bedroom? No.
Yeah.
So I don't have a problem with them knowing that I do it. Could probably live without them listening to it.
Yeah.
And I do worry a little bit about how it might reflect on them in their community.
Right.
But ultimately, you know, I have to live my life for me.
Absolutely.
So, you know, what are you going to do? And we have discussed this, and as long as we stand by what we say and we're comfortable with it, then I think nobody can shame you for something that you're not ashamed about.
That's
and
fair.
We're not ashamed of what we get up to, obviously, or we wouldn't be talking about it.
Absolutely, yeah. Sarah, what about you?
Yeah, logically, yes. Yes. My logical brain is totally with Michelle, and I don't feel any shame about anything that I do. It's just sex. If you want to take it really seriously and freak out, then that's on you, buddy. I'm gonna be over here having some orgasms and enjoying my life. But then there is still a side of me that gets worried. Yeah, I do. I worry about my Instagram, which is really weird. I don't know.
You're so open on your Instagram,
I know,
Sarah.
and I feel like sometimes I don't realise how open I am.
No, you're pretty
And then
open,
I get like
yeah.
overshare anxiety.
No, it's not. It's not oversharing. I find it really enlightening. I find it amazing. I mean, if you're doing a podcast about sex, why wouldn't you talk about your sex life on your Instagram?
I know. Logically, I'm totally with you, but yeah, sometimes I do get a little bit nervous.
To be honest, it's your sex failures that I find more entertaining than anything else.
They are the funniest.
Hang on a second. That's
What? I'm also
You put it out
spectacularly
there,
feeling
it's
to have
very
sex.
funny, Sarah. It's really fun. I'm sorry, but it's quite funny. But I
is
hope
very
I hope
funny.
that they follow you as well, and I hope that they understand.
Who?
That lad this morning.
Oh no, they
Oh
never
no, I
do.
don't give out my Instagram.
Oh, do you
No.
not?
God, no.
No.
Oh no, really?
No.
Well, they don't need to know anything about us in real life.
Yeah, no.
Too much, yeah.
I generally I
very
feel pretty
open,
good.
yeah.
Yeah, generally I feel pretty good about it. One thing that I do get nervous about, and I'd say this is more of a problem for me than it is for you, is the swinging community.
Okay.
So like I've gotten quite paranoid because there's on the website that we use, there's now a forum where people are talking about Pure Filth. And which is great, and the feedback is really good, and people are really into it, and we're loving that.
Okay.
But then I'm also super conscious of the fact that like,
You don't want to get kicked out of the community, essentially.
yeah, and I don't want
Gotcha.
people to find my account and know that this is me, and put my that account together with my Instagram account.
Okay.
I'm leaving a lot of trails, and I'm just a little bit like.
Okay, so there is a level of mystery, I suppose, that's surrounding it as well, and also a lot of people really value privacy, and obviously
Yeah.
not everybody off the street is going to these clubs as well, and that's really important to people who are there for the right reasons, because of
Yeah.
course you don't want.
People are nervous, and
But you don't want people going there for the wrong reasons as well, because
No.
that's when all the bad things can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, people on the scene are really concerned with their privacy and discretion, and that is something that Sarah Moore in the past has had discussions with people in the swinging scene about. But, you know, between the two of us, we're very well versed in the etiquette around these things, and, you know, not giving out locations, not naming people, not making it clear where these things are on. We reveal information that can be obtained publicly by anybody who had an inclination to reveal it. And we don't go any further than that. And all of these clubs and events have very stringent entry policies. Like there are people there tuned in for this person is a tourist. That's what we would call them.
Right,
Oh,
This person
okay.
is a tourist. They're not here for the right reasons. They're not getting in.
Yeah.
That's it.
And so just finally, for people who maybe are listening and who have been completely enlightened by this and they want to find out more about it, or they want to maybe get involved in it, obviously a really quick Google search will probably point you in the right direction. But yeah, are there any kind of things that you would recommend to maybe first timers who want to explore a little bit more?
For people who want to explore kink, I would say to join fetlife.com. I know that I keep looking to my she's the mature one.
mentor.
The oracle.
She I always have to clear everything. We have a guest coming on Pure Filth soon, and I was having a private conversation with her, and I was like, okay, this all sounds amazing, but let me check with Michelle.
Yeah.
Because she runs the show. Fetlife.com for anybody who wants to explore kink, and fabswingers.com for anybody who wants to explore swinging.
Fab swingers.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you're setting up profiles, be careful. Don't write on your profile, "Hi, my name is Sarah. I'm 28. I live at this address.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm really new to everything. I've got no experience, and I'm just so excited to learn and explore."
Okay, don't do that.
Don't do that.
No face pictures. You know, the tenet that we would go by is if your mother found this tomorrow, or your boss found this tomorrow, like
Would they
what
recognise
level
you?
of mortification would you be at?
When
Like,
you say face pictures, like, are there other pictures? Like, there's body pictures?
oh yeah.
All right, okay. Sorry, I told you I was going to be naive.
You have to, have a look at the product before you buy.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. So, yeah, and like no identifying stuff. And I would echo what Sarah says about fetlife.com. There are Ireland-specific forums and groups and events on there, and the same goes for fabswingers.com.
So they're great places to learn. Like, even
Yeah.
if you're not sure and you're just like, vaguely thinking that, oh, this might be for me, like joining these websites is not a commitment.
Yeah.
Nobody needs to know anything, and you can just go and like peruse and learn and read, and it's
Amazing.
yeah, it's fun.
Are you guys going to bring me on your podcast, seeing as I brought you on my podcast? Although I don't know what I would bring to it. Although you could bring me to one of your sex clubs, maybe.
You see, this is what I would like to do.
Okay.
I
And
definitely
then
want to bring
could
you
come
along.
and tell us everything that you thought about it.
I would love to do that.
Oh
yeah.
my God.
Would I get in
Hilarious.
though? Would they be okay with me being
Yeah,
there?
you would get you.
Yeah?
As long as you're with Sarah, you'll be fine.
Sarah. So you're going to be like that woman who like brought you under her wing.
Yay!
You could be like that to me.
You've
Great.
graduated.
I will do a much worse job of it.
Okay.
But Michelle will be there, so she'll take care of that.
Well, look, I love learning about new things, so I would be well up for that. So that sounds delightful. If anybody who's listening wants to hear more, go and find Pure Filth. It's on all the podcast apps, right?
Yeah, and you can.
What about iTunes? It's
Oh, it keeps getting taken down from
Yeah, it
iTunes?
keeps getting
They
taken
don't
down
list on
iTunes.
iTunes, but we're working on it.
Okay, cool.
But you
Spotify,
can.
SoundCloud, everywhere else.
Yeah, you can go to our Instagram, which is @PureFilthPodcast, and there is a link there with little links to everywhere you can listen.
Amazing. And Michelle and Sarah are also on social media, on Instagram as well, so you can go and check that out. So thank you so much for coming in, and thank
Thanks
you
for
for
having us.
teaching me a little bit as well. So I hope everybody has an amazing Valentine's Day, and of course, be safe, but have fun as well. So I'm Niamh Maher, and we will chat to you next week.